I'm going to reveal the one dirty secret that the greatest land investors, in fact, the greatest entrepreneurs understand. And frankly, they probably understand it infinitely better than you do. But if you can master this one thing, you can get yourself unstuck from pretty much any situation in your business. But if you don't understand this, more than likely your business has stayed flatlined for a long time, or worse, your business is on a steady decline. Okay, this is going to be a very high level video. So if you are not looking for high level information, it's time to jump out of this video. But for those that are serious, I'm going to go deep with you guys. This is a topic that has never really been discussed on YouTube that I've ever seen before. So let's dig into it. As we scroll down here, we're going to have this kind of flow that we're going to go through. So just stick with me. You guys need to make it to the end because I'm going to probably blow the lid off how you think about land investing or really any business. Okay. Now, before we get into it, I need to clarify one very important thing. Most of us think about business backwards. You see, most of us think about business as having this, chessboard where we get to move multiple pieces at once in any which direction. The truth is, more times than not, the moves you get to make are really finite, okay? And that's because we have finite amount of time, we have finite amount of resources, finite amount of discipline, finite amount of attention. So more times than not, we really only get to make like one move at a time. Now, I know that's counterintuitive because we think that we can multitask or juggle a bunch of different plays that we're making in our business. But really, it just typically comes down to one thing at a time. In fact, I think most of us would be served better if we thought about our business like chess, right? Like, okay, what's the most strategic move that I can make at this given time with one piece? You're not trying to move 12 pieces at once. We give ourselves more credit than we deserve, okay? We can't juggle multiple balls. We typically don't have the infrastructure to juggle multiple balls. Now, there is kind of this threshold that people will hit in their business, whether it's 8 figures or multiple 7 figures, where you have enough infrastructure and enough people and resources that this math does start to change a little bit. I think it's still always prevalent in pretty much any business, but when we're going from zero to a couple $100,000 or a couple $100,000 to a couple $1 million, this is the matrix. This is the code behind how businesses work. But again, most people aren't plugged into it. We're going to give some really interesting real examples here, okay? What does this really come down to? Well, I'm going to call it input volume versus efficiency. I'm going to use some big words here that probably don't make a lot of sense to you, but I promise I'll break them down. These are just in Sumner terminology. If you were to look at most land investors' operations that are running this at a high level, and I'm fortunate to either be friends with these people or they're LEA members or I'm cordial with them and know enough about their business to understand that if you were to actually pull back the curtain on how their business works, you'd be shocked at how many things are wrong in their business, how many of the things in their business aren't perfect, how many of the things in their business actually look like a dumpster fire. And I know that's like, what? But these guys have to be on top of the world. No, no, no. What these folks really have done that get outsized results in this business is they more times than not are putting that one move, that one piece at a time that they get to do towards input volume. And I'm going to break down some examples here so you guys can actually see like what does input volume look like. The thing about land investing is like it is a math business. Like there's just certain math that if we put the math in the right places and the right quantity of math, oftentimes we're going to get a bigger output on the other end. They are obsessed with input volume, obsessed with it. And that's always the lever that they're trying to pull on like 9 times out of 10. The problem is the new folks, the folks that again might be flatlining or having results that aren't really working, they're always thinking about efficiency. Okay. This kind of comes down to like the age old thing. Is it the archer or is it the arrow? Okay. This example is not perfect, but I would say the best land investors are focused on becoming a better archer. And they become a better archer by maybe taking more shots or what have you. And so there's more input there. Where the folks that are always hitting a wall in their business or always stuck in the same place, they're fixated on efficiency. And they might say, well, I'm going to get the best arrow possible. It's the most aerodynamic, or I'm going to get the best bow possible, but you're just not really a good archer yet. Now, again, that example is not perfect. So let me kind of back out and I'll give you guys a few examples here. One of like the most common pitfalls that people that are like a few years into this business that they run into is they often say, what's the best CRM? Or I'm changing CRMs because mine's just not that good. Okay, there are people out there that are doing 7 figures a month with an Excel spreadsheet. You know what I mean? They're not focused on efficiency. So what do those guys or girls know that you don't know? Well, they know that there's just a few points of input and it's actually going to have outsized results in their business to increase the volume, right? Rather than Loader, who's a coach inside of Leah, I've watched his business go huge. Like it's gotten huge, and they've essentially like doubled almost every single year. And they really hit like stratospheric levels last year. And if you were to peel back the curtain on their business, there's no emphasis on efficiency. They're not looking for the greatest call center. They're not looking for this new AI automation drip campaign. They're not looking at new CRMs. In fact, there's a lot of mess there. There's a lot of chaos there, but their growth has been directly related to, simply put, increasing marketing. Like that's a huge input in this business that's tracked and corresponded almost perfectly to their growth. Increasing metrics around acquisitions, which I'll give you guys some examples here. Now, to a lot of you guys, those inputs might not be obvious because you might be saying, okay, well, I want to increase my, jump up the inputs on acquisition. So I guess what I should really do here is just make more phone calls every day. Or maybe I should just build a bigger team. And that's okay advice, but you're kind of moving like the pawn on the chessboard. Maybe we want to bring out the rook, and maybe there's actually a better move that we can take that's going to have more collateral damage for our competitor, or more end result in your business, aka more revenue in your business. So we do have to think critically here. We do have to break down to like the fundamental level, like to the level of principle, what's actually driving growth here. Same thing on the input side for marketing. People might say, okay, so what I should do here based off Sumner's feedback is right now I'm doing cold calling, so I'm going to start doing RVMs. That's not always the best advice. And in fact, if you look at entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, they think they know how to get down to like the first order effect. Like they know how to get down to like the root level. And maybe they're just deeper thinkers. Maybe they just spend more time thinking, or maybe they're just given that gift. But I do think it's a muscle that we can develop, where a lot of people are looking at really stupid, obvious things that look like solutions, but are oftentimes giant distractions. And so if you're at this inflection point in your business, and you're saying, how do I grow this thing? It's almost guaranteed not going to be a new phone system. It's not going to be some new SOP around drip campaigns. It's not going to be some AI automation. It's not going to be a new CRM. That stuff almost never matters. So let me give you guys a few examples here, okay? And I hope you guys are tracking with me. Here's a real life example, and this actually just came up yesterday, and this is why I'm sharing it with you. When I get questions from people that are like, hey, Sumner, I think I'm going to switch from Pat Live to Answer Force. I think, well, you've got one move you get to make right now. Is that really the best move for you? Or, hey, Sumner, I'm switching from Follow Up Boss to Go High Level. You've got one move. Is that truly the best move? And at a certain point, maybe. If you've maxed out all of the input areas, for sure, then we can start seeking efficiency. But literally, for 99.9% of the people that watch this video, that does not pertain to you. In fact, it doesn't even pertain to me in my own land business. I still have not maxed out the inputs. But how the hell do we find what the inputs really are? Like what really matters here? And again, it's oftentimes not very superficial. So this just came from a call that I had yesterday with one of our team members, okay? She's an acquisition member. She's awesome. She's doing really well. She just had her best month ever in March of 2025. So this month, multiple six figures in pipeline profit added. So she's doing great, but she's asking the question of, okay, how do I do more, right? And we really broke it down to there's 5 areas that I think are relevant for input. Now, there's like input that's like scalable and like not always directly related to like working hard. And then there's like very unscalable hard work inputs. Now, there's diminishing returns on the hard work inputs. Okay. So, like, if your acquisition manager is making 20 calls a day, yeah, we can get that up to 50, 60, 70, 80 calls a day. Like, so, yeah, let's start there. Okay. If you're kind of beneath the threshold, let's get to the threshold. But there is a threshold to where it's going to start have diminishing returns because, yeah, maybe they can make 120 calls a day, but then what are we giving up at the same time? Okay. Now, again, most land investors or real estate investors or entrepreneurs aren't even asking themselves these questions. They're just saying, I really hate open phone, so I think I'm going to move over to this new phone system. Or, I really don't like the communication tools inside fill in the blank CRM. I'm going to move over to this new CRM. It's like, look it, that matters so little. That almost has no impact in your business. And if you think about the fact that you get one move at a time, what are we sacrificing to make that move? You're sacrificing a lot. And most people are getting caught in the micro and they haven't even mastered the macro. So this is what I broke down to her. Now, for context, she's making about 80 to 100 dials a day. So she's at the upper echelon of what's possible. Now, we could add in a triple line dialer and all that stuff. But again, it's kind of focusing on the efficiency. There's still more ground for us to gain. So I broke it down to 5 areas. Now, I try to pass off this quality of thinking to team members as well. I try to build teams that have entrepreneurs in them, right? I take these frameworks that I've developed, and it's not always me executing on the frameworks. I pass down the mental model. I say, okay, you go figure out what you need to start on next. What's the one move that you get to make next, right? Now, she's not going to tackle all of these at once. So I said, your results are broken down into 5 really like key components, in my opinion. Okay. One is your connect rate. So let's say right now she's averaging about 150 to 200 leads a month that she gets in her role. Okay. Let's say that she's connecting with 70% of them. And that could be for a multitude of reasons, right? How do we get it so she's connecting with 90% of them, right? Now, a lot of times this is not like substantially more work. Really, this just comes down to, first, we need to observe. So we need to become aware of what's happening there. We need to start tracking. So you create the problem awareness. Oh, my connect rate. Maybe I should work on that. Then you track. Well, what is my connect rate? Oh, it's 70%. Then I come up with a hypothesis. Then I put into place the 5-step process of the scientific method, essentially. Come with the hypothesis, we test it, we track the data, we iterate, yada, yada, yada. So maybe our hypothesis here is, hey, we're just calling people immediately. So perhaps, and this is a real thing, this is true, perhaps if I send a text before I call that says, hey, Bob, I'm going to call you in 5 minutes, maybe that takes our connect rate to 85%, right? Not really a monumental jump in work, but let's say let's say she gets 200 new leads a month. Let's say that we go from 70 to 80%. That's a 10% gain. That's 20 additional people that we get to talk to per month. That's 240 additional people per year. That probably translates to an additional 5 to 6 deals a year, maybe substantially more. Who knows? So that's one area. And I'm not saying that this is the area that she should start in, but that's one area to think about. Okay. The second is pre qualification. Now, this is a little weird. Okay. If she gets 200 leads per month, what are the pre-qualification signals that tells her where she should spend time with people and where she should spend less time? Okay. Out of that list of 200, like right now, there's probably only about one immediate deal per 50 leads. So there's like 4 immediate deals that you could probably pick up this month. There's probably an additional 3 deals that you could pick up over the next 3 months. And maybe there's 1 or 2 additional deals that you get to pick up over the next 12 months. So how do we categorize who's relevant and who's not relevant? Now, some of that's kind of a gut instinct thing. Some of that is true, like quantifiable data that you get. Things like the speed of their first response. There's a whole bunch of little categories that fall into how we pre-qualify leads. But some of it is just like developing that gut instinct. But just like you and your business, like where you spend your time is going to dictate your results. Same thing for acquisition people. Oftentimes they have so much opportunity or what looks like opportunity, but a very small amount of it's truly relevant to them right now. Okay. The next point is, well, how many verbal offers are we making? So let's say that they're making 70% of those people that they talk to. So 70% of the 70% get a verbal offer. Well, why? Can we make that 100%? Again, it doesn't really require working much harder, but you'll find there's all these weird gaps where like people try to prejudge too much who gets an offer, who doesn't get an offer. There's a whole bunch of reasons as to why people do this. But what if we just pull that lever and just say, as a rule, everyone gets a verbal offer? The next continuation of that is, well, out of the verbal offers that we make, how many people get a contract? Now, not 100% of those people should get a contract. There's a time and a place where it makes sense to send a contract, but oftentimes people are not even tracking this, they're not even aware of it, and the results are terrible here. Maybe 50% of the people they talk to will get a verbal offer if they're lucky. That's like pretty rare. And out of that 50%, maybe 20% to 30% will get a contract sent. Well, could we bump that up? What we do know is that the more verbal offers that we make and the more contracts that we send, we are going to make more deals. Deals are going to happen more often. Like as you have more offers that you've given and more contracts out there, yeah, you'll get more deals. That's just the truth. There's always been a 1-to-1 correlation for us on our good months versus our bad months between verbal offers made, contracts set, and the number of deals that we do. And that makes sense. Like you actually have to give the seller the opportunity to do business with you. But again, most land investors aren't thinking about this. They're thinking, I think I really need a CRM. I need a new one. Or, yeah, I'm going to move over to this new data provider. It's like, look, I'm not saying that stuff isn't relevant, but until you've mastered the basics, and in every little department of your business, there are basics. So we could say marketing, acquisition, operations, dispositions. There are the basics there, and most people aren't even aware of them or have maxed them out. So the next area that I told her is your pipeline management. Okay. Every month, you're going to carry over whatever 15 to 20% of your leads that you generated last month that are qualified opportunities into the next month. So, what are we doing to manage them? Yeah. Like, do you have the awareness to set next steps? Do you know what you should do next? Are you clarifying the next steps with them? Are you setting reminders for yourself? Are you sending them calendar invites for the next step? Whatever it may be. And you could break these down into a kind of a decision tree of like multiple points that flow into it. And oftentimes we don't know what those points are, right? Let's take an example of a land investor that's a couple of years in, okay? And they're using Go High Level right now. They want to move over to Pebble. Okay, that's like the one move that they're trying to make. Now, again, they probably think they can make a bunch of moves at once, but it's really one move. Problem is, their connect rate might be at 60%. That's like not totally uncommon. Okay. Their connect rate's at 60% for the new leads that they generate. I guarantee you, like the lift from moving to a new CRM is going to cost money probably, and it's going to take time. I guarantee you that I could come in their business and within probably 15 to 30 days, we could jack up their connect rate from 60% to 85%, and they're going to make way more money, do way more deals. And as a matter of fact, from that, they're going to be able to grow and compound faster. And it's this kind of thinking that the best land investors understand. They understand that they're going to have to make concessions all the time. All right, I'm going to sacrifice maybe having a CRM that's a little messy that I don't really love. And we'll come back to that at a later date. But I'm going to focus on the levers right now that are going to make the biggest difference. For example, in Land Insights, we hate the CRM that we have. We use Go High Level. I don't really love it, to be honest. It just hasn't been a great fit for us in our business. But last month, I made one decision that didn't really require a lot of work that added 7 figures plus to the valuation of the business. Now, there was a lot of people on the team that were saying, shouting from the rooftops, we need to switch CRMs, we need to switch CRMs. But I know better. I've just been in the game long enough to say, is that the one move that I want to make right now? That's a one move that maybe we can make at a later date. But I think there's other moves on the chessboard that put us in a closer position to checkmate, right? And so this kind of thinking you can do in all the departments of your business in all areas. And I want you to be very, very careful of, are you falling for this, archer versus arrow trap? And I think the vast majority of land investors absolutely are. And it's very, very dangerous. And until you've maxed out your archery abilities, I don't want you to even be thinking about the arrow. Now, of course, there's a threshold. Okay. You need some way to track your leads. Cool. Go get like a CRM or use a spreadsheet if you have to. You need a way to pull quality data. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there, but do not falsely attribute the fact that these things are going to make you better if you go find the better thing. They really aren't. And the best land investors understand this at a very high level. Now, if you guys want to learn our proven Leah land flipping strategy, we are opening up a free training call. The link is down below in the description, or it's right there, landinvestor.co/apply. Now, total disclaimer, I need to put this out there. This is only for serious folks that are like really trying to build a successful land business. If this is a side hustle for you, a get rich quick scheme, if you don't have the wherewithal to go all in, please do not apply. Okay, we pour into you on these calls. They're free. We'll show you what we're doing. Now, some folks will say, yeah, I want to join Leah. That's cool. It's kind of a side benefit. But if it doesn't happen, that's fine as well. But I need to put a disclaimer out there. This is not for tire kickers. This is not for people that are starting with $1 that are trying to build a land business. These aren't for folks that are, looking to throw a Hail Mary and get rich quickly. If you are looking to be a serious land entrepreneur, a serious land operator, I recommend come hop on a call with us. This is not a sales call. We'll share with you what we're doing, and you can decide if you want to take the next step with us or not. But it's my goal here to have reciprocity. In fact, you can see Justin, who is the gentleman that runs these calls. He himself walks the walk. He lives what we teach inside of Leah. He just landed a deal, buy at $225,000, to double close at $275,000. Everyone on the Leah team is legit. We live and breathe this stuff. And so you're in good hands. And if you guys want to learn more about what we're doing, I'll share that down below for you. All right, take care.